Hello and welcome to Today in Brevard Sports. I'm Lee Nessel.
And I'm Brian McCallum.
We head to the great outdoors on today's show, something that's certainly not unusual in Brevard County. We are fortunate to be able to enjoy our beautiful surroundings here all the time. But the people we will introduce you to today are anything but typical. Each is competitive in outdoor sports ranging from skateboarding to triathlons and cycling.
We also have our weekly surf report, and our columnist, Peter Kerasotis, joins us for his weekly commentary. Well, I am an old fogey, and because of that, I understand that skateboarding was once something that you just did for fun. I was never any good at it, unless you consider falling down good, and I certainly couldn't do any tricks. These days, skateboarding is competition and entertainment, and that brings us to 19-year-old Adam Taylor of Cocoa Beach, who travels the world with his skateboard.
19-year-old Adam Taylor of Cocoa Beach is a rising star on the professional skateboarding circuit. This weekend, he'll begin his 2009 campaign on the Dew Tour. Next week, he's in Los Angeles for the X Games 15 Mega Ramp and Vert skate competition. Recently, we spoke with ASA Entertainment CEO Rick Bratman of India Atlantic, who puts on a couple shows a year that includes Adam Taylor. This year, Taylor finished fourth in both of his contests in Cincinnati and Minnesota. Here's what Rick had to say about Adam.
We've seen Adam skate since he was on our amateur circuit for years, and was there that during his first pro contest. It was at one of our events, and have watched him progress to the point where he's one of the top 5 guys in the world, and we're really excited about it. I think right now every kid in America who has a skateboard dreams of becoming a pro one day, and the paradigm has definitely shifted, whereas 20 years ago it was all about becoming a professional baseball player or a football player if you were a young kid, and now today, I mean, these kids dream about becoming a pro skateboarder or a snowboarder or a surfer, etc. And really, I mean, anybody who has a few dollars in their pocket and go down there and buy a board of any sort can make their dream happen.
This will be the last one. Is he going to get it down? Yeah, and he does. He stops it right there. Adam Taylor.
You have your kids who are tattooed and have their earrings and have their sense of style is very different, but you also have your class of valedictorians, or all skateboarders and surfers. It's really changed a lot from where it was when I got involved 13, 14 years ago. It was considered, the image was, it was a lot of punk kids. The reality is today, like I said, you've got all sorts of different types of individuals doing it because it is an art form and you get a chance to express yourself and have fun. One of the reasons why ASA does what it does is because we just get such a high off of watching young kids who we get a chance to meet sometimes when they're 9, 10, 11 years old, and see them progress into top professionals and become adults. I mean, we met Ryan Sheckler, who when he was 9 years old competed at one of our events, and we met Adam when I think he was probably 15 or 16, and it's really very gratifying to know that we are able to help these kids along to help achieve their dream. I think skateboarding is going to do nothing but grow. The reality is it's one of these sports that you don't need other people around. You can progress at your own pace. The barrier for entry from a financial perspective is really low. You can do it for entertainment. You can do it for fitness. You can do it for fun. You can skate by yourself. You can skate with a group of friends. It's very community oriented. There are no coaches telling you what to do or how to do it. So it's today's generation of kids, it really fits well with how they see the world, and they want to express themselves. And skateboarding is so much about style to the point where most of the pros feel like skateboarding is more of an art form than it is a sport.
This is Hillard Grossman reporting for FloorToday.com.
Taylor was 5th on the Dew Tour last year, going up against guys 10 to 15 years older than him. He'll be competing on the Dew Tour again this weekend and at the X Games in Los Angeles next week.
Now, I've said many times before, I'm better in the water than on land, but I think Adam and I share a little of that daredevil spirit. I understand he'll be dropping in from a 90-foot ramp at the top of the Staples Center in Los Angeles. I like his spirit. If there were no wheels involved, I just might try that.
What's the ride at Disney at MGM used to be, the House of Terror?
Tower of Terror.
Tower of Terror. I don't do that.
Oh, I love that ride. Love it.
I think it's kind of a family thing because he's got a brother and a sister also in the X Games, but they're in other divisions.
Good luck to all the tailors in their competitions, and thank you to ASA Entertainment for that footage of Adam. Now we move to Joe Chalmers. He keeps his wheels close to the ground and is on the cusp of what could be an international career. The Satellite Beach resident is only 15, but on his way to perfecting a cycling career that he hopes will take him to the top of his field.
My love is cycling. I've been cycling for 2 years now. I've been competing in the Florida Cycling Point Series about a year and a half. I was second in the Point Series this year. I won the State Time Trial Championship, and I won the Florida Cyclocross Series. I live here in Satellite Beach, Florida. I train 200 miles a week, about 15 hours or so. I'm heading to Bend, Oregon at the end of this month, and I hope to do well there at the US National Championships. After that, I hope to continue on with cycling and maybe go to Europe and race and see how things go for me.
Josh will be racing the U.S. Junior National Cycling Championships in Bend, Oregon, July 28th through August 2nd.
Now, this is really special, I thought. You know, his coach raced in the Tour de France 6 times, so it sounds like he's in really good hands as far as his training. Now, speaking of the Tour de France, cycling fans know that this race is winding down this weekend. And let me tell you, there are a lot of Tour de France fans here in Brevard County very excited about this race. I talked to some of them this week for my column, which printed today. This is like their Super Bowl, but maybe better. Think about it. Instead of just 3 hours, which is maybe the average time for a Super Bowl, their event goes on for 3 whole weeks. So check out my column in today's Florida Today and online at floridatoday.com. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched the Tour de France, but it's very colorful. There are people in costume, people running alongside the riders in the street, pretty much in their face. The scenery is beautiful. If the tour puts you in a party mood, you can join other local tour fans for a race watch party tonight. It's at Bob's Bicycle Shop in Satellite Beach, and they start at 7 p.m.
To learn more about Josh, check out a story on him coming up in Sunday's Florida Today.
Our next story introduces you to a mother who immigrated to the United States from South Africa. She was a competitive sprinter there. Vanessa Zaidi now lives in Indian Harbor Beach and decided there were not enough sports options for her 5 children or for the children of Brevard County. So she decided to do something about it. Here's her story.
I have been passionate about kids' sports for my whole life. I was an athlete as a child in Africa, and coming here I noticed that the kids aren't involved in a lot of sports. And so for the last 4 years I've been working on starting my own youth program for kids in this area. Before my kids get to the point where they're not really interested, I decided I'm going to take it upon myself to get them involved. And I started doing triathlons about 4 years ago, and I got my kids involved in triathlons, and I wanted to have it available to other kids in the area too. So I started a triathlon club for kids, and I've started a junior surf lifesaving club also for kids, which is a whole different aspect. That's what we're doing today, is surf lifesaving. The sport of surf lifesaving, which is the flags, the rescue relays, the swim, run, swim.
I like the run, swim, run, because you ran and then the swimming just kind of challenging, but it's fun at the same time.
My goal for these kids for this week is multi-sport. Is the first thing. We try to go through a lot of different sporting events for the kids that don't get the opportunity to train for a triathlon, do beach volleyball. We get do lifeguard, rescue saving, ocean rescue, paddleboard, surfing, beach flags. So the major goal is so they can have fun and good time, but also so they can be introduced into several different sports all in 1 week.
We offer monthly running camps for kids. We have like a running club / triathlon club for kids and parents. I've had a lot of parents call me and say they want to do this with their kids, and so they'll sign up together. And we train 2 to 3 times a week, and we do bridge training, beach training, swim training, and we sign up for different races, and we would like to all go together, you know, as like a little team. My 10-year-old daughter Taylor and I do triathlons together. We recently won first place in the Trade Winds Tri in Fort Lauderdale in our little division. And I think it's a great way to spend time with my kids and keep them fit and healthy. And I have twin 6-year-olds, and they are very active and they love to run. So I'm hoping that they'll also get into it.
Can I sign up for that? That looks like that looks like so much fun.
For you.
I think they need to have an adult version of that camp. I will take a week vacation and just go have fun, feel like a kid again.
You're a triathlete.
Yep.
Among many of your talents. You know, we didn't get around to a lot because her daughter was not there at the camp, but they have done triathlons together, and now the daughter is actually becoming quite a triathlete in her own right, and she will be competing in a national level competition not too long from now in the state. And the mother, Vanessa, has talked about some families get involved in a situation where you don't do the whole triathlon by yourself. For example, Vanessa has a lung condition, so she sometimes can't do the run. So her daughter may do the middle part, and she'll do the swim and the bike.
Right.
So there's all kinds of ways. I guess if you had more kids, well, she does have more kids, but Taylor is the one that's really into it.
Right.
If you had a couple of kids that wanted to get into it, maybe you could split it up, or if you had 5 kids, you could split up into 2 groups of 3. So there's a lot of things that she has going on that you can get involved in her group or do it on your own like you do. You do it on your own. How many have you done?
Oh, I don't know, a handful, but how I started was in those relays. You know, triathlons can be split up into relays where if one person does more than one leg, but usually one person does one leg. Somebody will do the swim, which is what I do.
Right.
I'm usually recruited by some friends in town because good swimmers are actually the hardest to find here. There's a really great running community and a great cycling community and a great triathlon community, but there aren't so many people who just do the swim. So usually I get a phone call a couple months before some of the big races, hey, do you want to do relay? And I love it, you know.
Yeah.
I can't always go out and train for the full bike and the full run, but it's a ton of fun to do it as a group. And there's some of the longer races too do that. There's races all around the state. I know local families that compete too. There's 2 sons, a daughter, the mother and the father, and what a great way to stay together as a family.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'll do this right here on semi-live television. Let's do a relay together. You can do the 3 parts, and I will hand you water at the breaks and have your shoes ready for you when you're ready to get on the bike. We could team up that way.
Somehow I feel like I'm getting the short straw on that, but I'll have to contemplate the offer.
That's the way I would team up for a triathlon. I'm not a triathlete. If you are, go to kidstryclub.com for more information on these camps. For those interested in competing in or watching a triathlon in the near future, 2 established area triathlons have merged and will be held tomorrow at the Titusville YMCA at 7 a.m. The Space Coast Medical Associates Foundation and the YMCA Family Challenge are now one event and will continue to raise money for the Space Coast Cancer Center. The race includes competitors who battle cancer daily. Check Sunday's Florida Today for coverage of this event.
There were a few tropical systems on the radar this week. Will they bring surf? I know every surfer's asking. Bob Freeman gives surfers some hope again this week in his report.
Well, it looks like a fun weekend of surf coming up for everybody. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to getting out there. You know, we had this little tropical system that actually was more of a wannabe tropical system, but it passed off the Bahamas, now off our coast, heading up off the Carolinas. And what we're getting now is what we call a background swell, and it's running about 3 feet at 9 seconds for Saturday. So what that means to surfing conditions in Brevard County is this. 2 to 3 feet, call that waist to thigh high, sometimes stomach high sets, and with semi-clean conditions, early morning southwest breeze shifting to southeast later in the day. Saturday, I still expect to be a lot of fun surf at all surf locations. Waves will drop to anywhere from thigh to waist high range at the best. The swell will drop down to about 2 feet at 8 seconds, but we'll still have plenty of fun surf. Early morning low tide helps again, so find your best spot, grab your best board, get plenty of wax, eat your Wheaties. I'll see you out there. This is Bob Freeman for Florida Today.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks for the reminder about Wheaties. Peter Kerasotis, Florida Today's columnist, joins us in the studio again. Welcome, Peter. Good to see you as always.
Nice to be here.
Now, your first topic is somebody you know well, and as a football fan, I know of well, but even at that, I was stunned to see some of the statistics you have down there for this guy.
Well, the player we're talking about is Wilbur Marshall, astronaut high graduate, played at the University of Florida, had a nice 12-year career in the NFL. A couple of years ago, he went up on the Ring of Honor at the University of Florida, which was something that I campaigned for, to see him get that honor that I thought he deserved, and they obviously eventually thought he deserved too, to go up there with Steve Spurrier and Emmett Smith and Jack Youngblood and Danny Warfel. So he's up on that Ring of Honor. Then this past Saturday he went into the College Football Hall of Fame. And I really do think the next step for Wilbur is people like me in the media promoting him now for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In my mind, Wilbur redefined the outside linebacker position when he went to the NFL. A guy that could rush the passer, create havoc, get sacks, but also could drop back with wide receivers and be able to cover man-to-man, get interceptions, get fumbles, those types of things. And the stats that Brian was talking about, this is a player who had 45 sacks in his career, 23 interceptions, had 3 touchdowns. The first player to have gotten 20 sacks and 20 interceptions, played on 2 Super Bowl championship teams, the Chicago Bears and the Washington Redskins, was a 3-time Pro Bowler, a former NFC Defensive Player of the Year. So I think the next step for Wilbur now is to see him get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, and I'd like to try to help him do that.
Somebody who's not necessarily on the track yet, but you believe he deserves a track to the Hall of Fame, but you believe he deserves a chance to take a shot at it at least, is in the news lately.
So we're talking about Michael Vick. I don't know if Michael Vick will ever have a Hall of Fame career at this point, but I think he should have a career again in the NFL. What he did was hideous. It was contemptible. What he did to dogs, I think everybody agrees that those were egregious acts. But he's paid his debt to society. Not only paid his debt to society, this is a guy that lost 2 years out of his career, over $100 million. At this point, a free man. He wants to work again. He wants to be in the NFL again. Commissioner Goodell's going to be meeting with him. And at that point, I think the sooner the better that he gets reinstated, and everybody starting to put this behind him is the way to go. And I think if he makes a decision to allow him to be reinstated in the NFL, it gets him into the training camps that are opening up very soon. And then all those protesters that feel that this guy still has to pay and pay and pay, let them get it out of their system during training camp. Let them get it out of their system during the exhibition games, maybe a couple of games into the season, and then eventually the only people who are going to give him any attention is some part-time stringer is going to be standing out there. That's a part-time journalist in our business, a stringer with a microphone, giving them a few minutes. But at some point, we've got to put this behind us and let the guy get on with his life and his career and be able to earn a living, because he's lost everything.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that one. My 1-year-old miniature pincher, however, told me to tell you that he's vehemently opposed. And I think they've turned the corner on that one. The next one, it kind of touches our business a little bit, and you've got a strong opinion on this, I know.
Well, the next topic we're going to talk about is Erin Andrews, the ESPN reporter, University of Florida graduate. And big news this past week is that some sleaze videotaped her secretly through a peephole into a hotel room and then posted this on the internet of her naked, and it just very salacious, very sleazy, very scummy. But really, it's the direction that our society seems to be going. And I can remember 15 years ago being in London and picking up one of the newspapers, and they run photos of naked women in there, and thinking, how is this journalism? What's going on? But we see more and more in our country, newspapers, websites now with hits so important, running a series of gallery photos of cheerleaders or bikini contests, or like the Orlando Sentinel right now has a gallery of women in sports who've posed for Playboy. And that's the direction that we're going. And when you look at what happens with TV, when you look at ESPN, and not to take anything away from the women who do sports broadcasting, but they are looking for women that are eye candy as well as can report. And there are no Tony Kornheisers in women's broadcasting. And it's sad to see in our society that everything has to be sex, sex, sex. And then the end result of this, in a very, very sad way, is that this woman has been exposed in a way that is just so violating. So it's a really sad situation, but it's a societal thing that I hope we can turn around.
Thank you, Peter. That's all the time we have this week for Today in Brevard Sports. Thank you for joining us.
And join us again next week on this same station and online. Meanwhile, follow us in the print edition of Florida Today and at floridatoday.com.